is already like claiming credit for this. Okay. So he reposted, like section, and he says, "Oh, where he dissing Fatso I F Bloodhound did." Again,
the news exploded online. Chicago rapper Q50, infamous for claiming responsibility for 9 killings, was shot in St. Louis, and his rivals were openly celebrating, practically broadcasting their gloating on Instagram. The details were startling. Q50, reportedly sitting in a black truck with associates, was ambushed while attending an after-hours event he's been booked for. Immediately, social media erupted, with many condemning Q50's decision to travel to St. Louis, labeling it a lapse in judgment. One online voice, identifying himself as CTS Lil Wick, even claimed he's banned Q50 from the city, a statement many dismissed as insignificant initially. But this seemingly minor ban, it appears, fueled a chain of events with potentially deadly consequences. It begs the question, can a craving for online notoriety truly lead to real-world violence? The circumstances surrounding this shooting are shrouded in manufactured drama, a conflict born entirely from the desperate pursuit of clout. Q50's supposed issue with St. Louis is a recent fabrication, a calculated move by those seeking attention. MFK, Q50's management team from Always Moving Forward, maintains strong ties to St. Louis, a history that includes having signed 2 female artists from the city, a fact often overlooked amidst the current turmoil. The very notion of a genuine conflict between Q50 and St. Louis is demonstrably false, a product of ambition and a thirst for online recognition. The core of the conflict lies in the relationship between Q50, Lil Dre, and the subsequent involvement of CTS Lil Wick, all entangled in a web of regional beefs magnified by social media. Lil Dre, originating from Chicago, has established significant connections within St. Louis, including a close relationship with CTS Lil Wick. This connection, alongside Dre's own affiliations, positions him within circles that clash with those favored by Q50, specifically the entourage of YG Fatso. It's a tangled network of alliances and resentments, amplified by the digital age. The disturbing reality is that a craving for online notoriety can breed real-world danger, as demonstrated by the actions of CTS Lil Wick. Despite having absolutely no blood ties, no prior interaction, or any legitimate reason to care, Wick seized an opportunity to insert himself into a pre-existing online feud between Q50 and YG Fatso. This calculated move began when blogs started covering Q50's diss track aimed at Fatso. A typical online exchange quickly escalated when Wick opportunistically commented, feigning outrage and aligning himself with Q50's perceived victim. This wasn't a matter of loyalty or justice. It was a blatant grab for attention. It's a prime example of how seemingly minor actions can trigger a cascade of events leading to violence. Following this comment, Wick escalated the situation by publicly banning Q50 from St. Louis through an Instagram live broadcast, accompanied by a snippet of a song. This perceived slight, combined with the attention it garnered, spurred Q50 to react, believing that Wick was mocking the entire city of St. Louis. Q50, fueled by the online drama, felt compelled to respond, pushing the boundaries of the situation. He voiced his defiance, asserting his right to travel where he pleased, and dismissing Wick's authority, a direct challenge to Wick's authority and a provocation to the city of St. Louis. This bold statement wasn't born out of genuine animosity, but rather a desire to retaliate against Wick's actions and gain further online attention. Q50's attitude was, if he wants to ban me, I'll show him I can do whatever I want. This defiance, amplified by the digital realm, ultimately led to the events in St. Louis. He challenged the perception of authority, flaunting a disregard for consequences, while Wick reveled in the chaos he instigated. The language he used was deliberately provocative, challenging perceptions and daring the city to retaliate. He appeared to almost incite a reaction. This reckless behavior, combined with his alleged history of violence, created a volatile situation that spiraled out of control. He boasted about his ability to disregard boundaries, reinforcing the image of a dangerous and unpredictable figure, a persona meticulously crafted for online consumption. The whole situation screams of manufactured conflict, a deliberate...
So, here's why I say that a clout-depraved rapper is the most dangerous specimen society has ever seen. CTS Lil Wick has no issues, no interaction, no problem whatsoever with Q50. Well, he knows that Q50 has a lot of clout. He's a rapper who's trying to get clout. So what CTS Lil Wick did was, when YRG Fatso and Bloodhound Q50 started going back and forth online, he decided that he was going to insert himself into the beef to get some type of publicity. So there's one
escalation fueled by a shared thirst for online relevance. It's a grim illustration of how a seemingly insignificant online feud can have devastating consequences. It's important to maintain perspective. Q50's claims of being responsible for 9 deaths remain unsubstantiated, and it's crucial to treat everything he says with extreme skepticism. However, the reaction within St. Louis was significant, fueled by the perception that Q50 was disrespecting the city and its people. He publicly claimed to have robbed someone from St. Louis for $60,000, repeatedly flaunting expensive jewelry, a gesture perceived as a direct provocation. It's a constant performance, a relentless pursuit of attention that, tragically, appears to have played a significant role in the events that unfolded. The situation highlights a disturbing trend: the blurring of lines between online posturing and real-world consequences, demonstrating how a craving for online notoriety can, indeed, be a dangerous obsession. The digital age has birthed a strange and dangerous phenomenon: the rise of the online persona, detached from the constraints of reality, fueled by a relentless pursuit of notoriety. This isn't merely about seeking attention. It's a descent into a distorted perception of consequence, where digital bravado bleeds into the physical world with devastating results. The case of Q50, a rapper whose online persona spiraled into a real-life confrontation in St. Louis, embodies this unsettling trend. It's a story of escalating tensions, misguided provocations, and the chilling realization that an online reputation can be a fragile shield against the raw force of community outrage. The genesis of the conflict lies in Q50's blatant disregard for the boundaries of respect. It began with boasts, pronouncements of financial conquest, and a calculated disrespect for the city of St. Louis and its residents. He wasn't simply rapping about wealth. He was flaunting it in a manner designed to provoke a response, a performance intended to stoke online drama. The claim of robbing someone from St. Louis for $60,000 was not just a boastful lyric. It was a deliberate act of antagonism, a digital gauntlet thrown down to the city's collective pride. He punctuated this provocation with displays of expensive jewelry, a visual declaration of dominance and disdain, further fueling the simmering resentment. The perception wasn't just one of disrespect. It was a personal attack, a public humiliation of St. Louis and its people. The reactions within St. Louis weren't uniform, but they were undeniable. While some within the city's rap scene, like CTS Lil Wick, were seemingly either neutral or tacitly supportive, a wider segment of the community felt deeply offended. It wasn't merely about the theft itself, but the arrogance and dismissiveness with which it was presented. Warnings began to circulate. Hushed and urgent whispers passed through online forums and social media groups, warnings that Q50's actions would have consequences, that his provocative behavior wouldn't go unchallenged in St. Louis. These weren't empty threats. They were expressions of a deep-seated frustration and a collective determination to defend the city's honor. The source text emphasizes this, stating that people were actively sending him warnings about the repercussions he would face if he dared to return. The essence of the St. Louis mentality, the source material reveals, is a certain unyielding toughness. At the end of the day, ain't nothing sweet, ain't nothing nice about St. Louis. This isn't about fostering negativity. It's a recognition of a certain resilience, a refusal to be intimidated by empty threats or digital posturing. It's a sentiment rooted in a history of hardship and a deep-seated pride. Regardless of neighborhood or background, this core value persists, a refusal to be easily dismissed or disrespected. Even if Q50 had gotten away with the theft, the manner in which he bragged about it, the blatant disrespect shown to the city and its people, amplified the offense. The source text explicitly advises against daring to return, underlining the collective sentiment that his actions would be met with resistance. The danger of Q50's behavior wasn't simply about verbal taunts. It was the intersection of online posturing and real-world consequences. The escalating conflict became more complex when Q50 began to target specific individuals. The source material highlights.
But St. Louis people took it seriously because he's popping it. He's telling them folks, or telling the world that is, that he robbed somebody from St. Louis for $60,000. He kept showing his wrist. He said he also took that expensive watch from somebody in St. Louis. He told them he runs St. Louis, all right, that y'all can't ban him from nowhere, that he done robbed y'all. So he's popping it. It pissed off a lot of people in St. Louis outside of CTS Lil Wick. I'm just being real with y'all right now, bro. A lot of
that the escalation wasn't just about a clash between individuals. It was about the broader dynamic between rival factions, a competition for online dominance that spilled over into the physical realm. The initial warnings weren't simply about consequences. They were about directing the anger away from the entire city and toward the specific individual responsible for the provocation. It was a plea for targeted response, rather than a citywide confrontation. Had Q50 heeded this advice, the situation might have been contained, the potential for violence averted. The feud deepened when CTS Lil Wick responded with a diss track, not just aimed at Q50, but at his deceased friend, Lil Jeff. This was a turning point, a crossing of a line that transformed the conflict into something far more personal and volatile. The source stresses the bizarre and unsettling nature of this response, dissing a dead homie solely to garner attention. You got no issues with this dude. He never robbed your homies. He never killed your homies. Y'all have no type of issues, beef whatsoever. This highlights the absurdity of the feud, the realization that the conflict wasn't about genuine grievance, but about a desperate hunger for online recognition. The source text labels the individual as a clout-deprived rapper, a dangerous specimen driven by an insatiable desire for attention. This sentiment is echoed in the source's commentary on the broader dynamics at play. A clout-deprived rapper is the most dangerous specimen the world has ever seen. This isn't about dismissing the individuals involved as insignificant. It's about recognizing the potential for harm when someone's actions are driven by a purely performative impulse. The source emphasizes the boldness of those who were openly feuding with CTS Lil Wick, but then contrasts it with the perceived weakness of engaging with someone who possesses white privilege. A crash-out YN with white privilege. I don't want no problems with, homie. This illustrates a complex interplay of race, power, and perceived vulnerability, underscoring the volatile nature of the situation. Q50's subsequent response only served to escalate the conflict further. Despite warnings and opportunities to de-escalate, he continued to direct his ire at the entire city of St. Louis, a critical misstep that solidified the community's resolve to confront him. Again, man, you saying dumb stuff in St. Louis, still mad I took 60K. This, coupled with the reference to a next funeral, and the declaration of those affected as his ops, only served to amplify the anger and deepen the sense of betrayal. The source material highlights the profound mistake of failing to clarify who his remarks were directed towards. Failing to specify CTS Lil Wick as the target meant that the entire city perceived itself as the victim of his provocation. The source material provides a vivid depiction of the escalating tension and the growing perception of Q50 as a dangerous figure. His online reputation, fueled by boastful claims and provocative behavior, was transforming into a perception of threat. Those who were publicly exalting him online were inadvertently fueling the fire, giving him the perception of invincibility. Yo, when he come back to our city, I'ma get him. The danger wasn't just about the physical confrontation. It was about the collective desire to prove that Q50's online bravado was a false facade. The public perception of him was shifting from a digital provocateur to a symbol of disrespect, and the community was determined to dismantle that image. The situation served as a stark reminder that online actions have consequences, and that the pursuit of online notoriety can lead to dangerous and unpredictable outcomes. The digital landscape can be a volatile place, a battleground of egos and fleeting notoriety, and few have navigated those treacherous waters with as much reckless abandon, and now, with potentially devastating consequences, than Q50, also known as Bloodhound. The title itself, Q50 Bloodhound attacked by his enemies at St. Louis, hints at a stark reality. Online bravado can quickly translate into real-world danger. What began as a series of provocative online statements seemingly intended to generate hype and attention, has spiraled into a deeply unsettling situation, culminating in an attack that has left several individuals injured and the entire community on edge. It's a cautionary tale about the profound mistake of failing to clarify your audience, of letting online...
To give you guys a reward, I'm gonna pay for this. And CTS also says, shout out my 95th boys from Chicago, right? Lil Dre. This ish from the Rock to the Lou. Oh my God, bro. Worst part about it all, I can't even be sure if these dudes are stupid or geniuses. Stupid if you actually did this and you're admitting. Geniuses if you had nothing to do with this and you're claiming it. But also too, why would you even want the police on your tail like that? Why would you even want to claim something like this publicly? Why would you even want to admit, right, being involved in a mass shooting in public? It's just dumb.
Provocation eclipsed the potential for real-world repercussions. The initial spark, as with many online conflicts, came from a seemingly innocuous series of boasts and challenges. Q50, fueled by a desire for online dominance, made statements that, while intended to provoke reactions and generate viral content, ultimately painted a target on his back. Failing to specify the intended recipient of his remarks meant that the entire city, it seemed, perceived itself as the victim of his provocation. The digital world transformed these statements into perceived threats, fueling a growing sense of animosity and a collective desire to dismantle the facade of invincibility he cultivated. Those who publicly celebrated his online persona inadvertently amplified the danger, solidifying his perceived invulnerability. The problem wasn't just the words themselves, but the lack of context and the ambiguity with which they were delivered. It's easy to hide behind a screen, to hurl insults and challenges without considering the potential consequences. But when those words are interpreted as genuine threats, the digital world ceases to be a safe space and transforms into a potential battlefield. And that's precisely what happened in this case. The escalating tension was palpable, a digital powder keg waiting for a spark. The perception of Q50 wasn't simply as a digital provocateur. It was as a symbol of disrespect, a flagrant disregard for the boundaries of online behavior. The community, feeling disrespected and increasingly threatened, was determined to challenge this image, to prove that the online bravado was nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. The situation underscored a vital lesson. Online actions carry real-world consequences, and the relentless pursuit of online notoriety can lead to unpredictable and dangerous outcomes. The internet sees him telling grown men he's going to send them to their dead grandmothers. The sheer audacity of the statement, the callousness of the threat, resonated deeply and amplified the sense of outrage. A grown man apologizing and pleading, No, Q50, please don't send me to my dead grandma," highlighted the unsettling power Q50 wielded through his online persona. The response, predictably, was a mixture of anger and a desire for retribution. It wasn't simply about proving Q50 wrong. It was about reasserting a sense of order and respect within the community. The perception of Q50 was shifting from a digital provocateur to a symbol of disrespect, and the community was determined to dismantle that image. This desire for confrontation was further complicated by the actions of Q50 himself. Instead of backing down, instead of attempting to de-escalate the situation, he actively fueled the flames. His posts announcing his return to St. Louis. "Hey man, yo, I'ma be here. ACEST.A Louis, bro. Right. Saturday, August 16th, man. Y'all come here." Were not cautious statements. They were invitations to a confrontation. The announcement of a meetup after the concert. And GT. So, it played out that apparently alerting everyone of where he was going to be in St. Louis kind of backfired, only exacerbated the situation. It was a reckless display of defiance, a deliberate provocation that guaranteed a response. And the response came swiftly and violently. While enjoying the after-hours spot, Q50 and his associates found themselves under fire. The video documenting the attack is now circulating online, a stark visual representation of the dangers inherent in online provocation. The fact that 4 people were left in critical condition serves as a grim reminder that the consequences of online conflict can be devastatingly real. The claim that Q50 himself was grazed, that he sustained minor injuries, but is attempting to downplay the severity of the attack, only adds another layer of complexity to the narrative. The attempt to conceal the extent of his injuries, the refusal to openly acknowledge being targeted, seems less about humility and more about maintaining the illusion of invincibility. The narrative is further muddied by the contradictory reports emerging from Q50's team. Their attempts to portray the situation as less serious, to deny any significant injuries, only fuel suspicion and casts doubt on their credibility. They're sending out these little messages like, "Hey man, he wasn't shot," only amplifies the feeling that something is being concealed. The fact that even his own...
Because his management is MFK from always moving forward. MF has really heavy ties to St. Louis. Q50 always did business in St. Louis. AMF, his management team, has signed 2 female artists from St. Louis. Here's Q50 putting a chain on a female artist from St. Louis. They really have no issues. The issue that he has with St. Louis was manufactured, contrived, from dudes who wanted clout. You see, his only issue or smoke that came from St. Louis was with this dude called CTS Lil Wick, who inserted himself in Chicago beef that has nothing to do with him at all. There's a guy from Chicago called Lil Dre. Now,
own associates are expressing disbelief, and confusion only deepens the sense of unease. The implications of this attack extend far beyond the immediate physical injuries. Q50's attempt to draw parallels with the fate of Chris Wallace. "Big Papa, but I ain't going like Chris Wallace," a reference to the rapper Notorious B.I.G., is both a desperate plea for sympathy and a chilling admission of the danger he faces. The defiant declaration, "The world know who the goblins, they begging for me to stop," further underscores his refusal to back down, even in the face of such a violent attack. The unwavering stance, "You either in or you out. It don't even question me about it," highlights a rigid ideology that prioritizes defiance over safety and respect. The involvement of CTS Lil Wick, who has already claimed credit for the attack, and Lil Dre, who is openly admitting to orchestrating the violence, only escalates the situation. Lil Dre's shout-out to Instagram pages and his promise of a reward, "I'ma pay for this," suggest a coordinated effort to target Q50 and his associates. The involvement of 95th Boys from Chicago further expands the scope of the conflict, hinting at a network of individuals willing to engage in violent acts in support of their online affiliations. The question now becomes whether these individuals are truly as foolish as they appear, or whether they are orchestrating a more complex game. Are they stupid if you actually did this, and you're editing geniuses if you had nothing to do with this? The very act of publicly claiming responsibility for such a violent attack carries significant legal and social consequences. However, the possibility that these claims are fabricated, intended to deflect attention or further escalate the conflict, cannot be discounted. The repercussions of this incident are likely to extend far beyond the immediate physical injuries. Q50's ability to secure bookings for concerts and appearances may be severely impacted. Now, they're not on the level, I guess, as rappers yet to where you now have to worry about your booking. The stigma associated with violence and public notoriety can be a significant barrier to professional success. Even if Q50 had nothing to do with the attack, the association with violence will inevitably damage his reputation. Even if you had nothing to do with it, it's still stupid. It's still going to affect your paper down the line. The incident serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of fame and the potential for online conflict to spill over into the real world. The very essence of this situation is a dangerous spiral. The dangerous spiral doesn't just affect Q50's career. It speaks to a deeper, more pervasive anxiety within the music industry and the online world that fuels it. It's a culture where perception is reality, and where a single incident, however fabricated or misrepresented, can have devastating consequences. The speed with which information or misinformation circulates online magnifies the damage exponentially. It's no longer sufficient to simply deny involvement. The damage is often done before the truth even has a chance to surface. The lingering question remains, is this a genuine attack, a calculated maneuver, or a complex blend of both? The ambiguity itself becomes a weapon. The reported location, St. Louis, adds another layer of complexity. Is there a specific reason this incident unfolded there? Was it chosen strategically to amplify the impact, to leverage existing tensions or rivalries within the local scene? The music industry, particularly within hip-hop, thrives on narratives of struggle, of triumph, of conflict. And while authenticity is often prized, the line between genuine experience and manufactured persona can be dangerously blurred. This incident, whether real or staged, taps directly into those established tropes. It feeds the constant hunger for drama and controversy. Folks, the message trails off, a fragmented communication hinting at a broader network, a ripple effect extending beyond the immediate players. It suggests a deliberate leak, a carefully orchestrated dissemination of information designed to maximize its reach and impact. The anonymity adds a chilling quality. The source remains hidden, shielded by the very technology that facilitates the spread of the news. This isn't just a personal attack, it's a strategic maneuver, intended to destabilize and control the narrative. The brevity of the message itself speaks volumes. A deliberate
People was upset, and they was even sending him warnings, bro, that he's gonna get dealt with for dissing St. Louis if he comes to St. Louis.
At the end of the day, ain't nothing sweet, ain't nothing nice about St. Louis. I don't care what part you on, St. Louis, east, west, whatever, bro. Ain't nothing sweet about St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? Whether this man got on on somebody or not, the way you bragging about it, bro, and the way you just disrespect the St. Louis and them dudes, I wouldn't dare you to go back, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Deliberate effort to create intrigue and generate speculation. It's a digital breadcrumb, leading us further down the rabbit hole. The implications for Q50 are profound. Beyond the immediate physical risk, the possibility of further violence, the emotional trauma of being targeted, there's the crushing weight of professional uncertainty. The music industry operates on reputation. A tarnished reputation can be nearly impossible to repair. The loss of trust, the erosion of credibility, are wounds that cut deep. It's a harsh reality for artists who navigate a landscape increasingly defined by online scrutiny and public perception. Now, they're not on the level, I guess, as rappers yet to where you now have to worry about your booking. This sentiment underscores a pervasive fear within the industry. The fear of losing everything, of having your career derailed by a single, damaging incident. The ability to secure gigs, to maintain a steady stream of income, is inextricably linked to public perception. A reputation for violence, even if unfounded, can be a career killer. The industry is ruthless, and there's always someone waiting to capitalize on another's misfortune. The notion that even innocence can't shield one from the consequences is particularly devastating. Even if you had nothing to do with it, it's still stupid. And it's still going to affect your paper down the line. This isn't a comforting reassurance. It's a brutal assessment of the reality facing artists in the digital age. The speed and pervasiveness of online information leave little room for nuance or context. Assumptions are made, judgments are rendered, and reputations are damaged with alarming speed. The fight to reclaim one's image, to correct the record, can be an uphill battle, often requiring significant financial resources and a dedicated public relations team. The incident forces a critical examination of the culture that both creates and perpetuates these cycles of violence and accusation. The music industry thrives on conflict, but the escalation of tensions into real-world violence is a dangerous and unsustainable trend. The glorification of aggression, the celebration of notoriety, these are factors that contribute to a climate of fear and mistrust. The lack of accountability, the anonymity afforded by online platforms, only exacerbate the problem. The question isn't just who attacked Q50. It's why this attack happened, and what systemic issues allowed it to occur. The fragility of fame is a recurring theme in the lives of many artists. The fleeting nature of popularity, the constant pressure to maintain relevance, these are challenges that can take a significant toll on mental and emotional well-being. The incident serves as a stark reminder that fame is not a shield, it's a target. The higher one rises, the greater the risk of a devastating fall. The online world amplifies this vulnerability, creating a digital panopticon where every action is scrutinized, every mistake magnified. The spiral isn't just about Q50's career. It's about the erosion of trust within the music community and the broader cultural landscape. The constant barrage of accusations, the relentless pursuit of drama, the relentless cycle of violence and retaliation, these are symptoms of a deeper malaise. It's a culture that rewards negativity, that celebrates conflict, that thrives on chaos. The incident serves as a wake-up call, a moment of reckoning. It demands a re-evaluation of the values and priorities that govern the music industry. It demands a commitment to accountability, to transparency, to a more responsible and ethical approach to online engagement. The question of whether the attack was genuine or staged remains unanswered, but the consequences are undeniably real. Whether it was a calculated move to damage Q50's reputation or a spontaneous act of violence, the impact extends far beyond the immediate players. It serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of online conflict, the fragility of fame, and the enduring power of perception. It highlights the urgent need for a cultural shift, a move away from the glorification of conflict and towards a more compassionate and responsible approach to online interaction. The silence following the partial message, folks, echoes the uncertainty and apprehension that now permeates the music industry. The silence following the partial message, folks, echoes the uncertainty and apprehension that now permeates the music industry.